It started quietly, didn't it? Not with an explosion, but a whisper. A whisper soaked in manipulation, dressed as concern, laced with poison so sweet you mistook it for truth. They didn't scream at you, they rewired you. They played puppet master with invisible strings, tugging softly at your doubt, pulling gently on your insecurities until you began to question your own pulse. You forgot what was real because they told you what was correct. You second-guessed your instincts because they framed your clarity as confusion. And the sick part? You started apologizing for seeing things as they were. That's how it begins. The gaslight flickers, and suddenly your entire world is shadow. But you didn't break, you paused. And in that pause, in that unholy silence, something ancient woke up inside you. Something primal, something no liar, no manipulator, no mask-wearing saint could ever cage again. They called you dramatic when you were honest. They called you bitter when you were accurate. They smirked while you bled. The more you tried to explain yourself, the deeper they buried the blade. And every time you dared to expose the contradiction, they turned your truth into madness. You're too sensitive. You're imagining things. You're just overthinking. Ah, the classics. Vintage tactics from the handbook of devils in disguise. But you see, there's a fatal flaw in their design. They thought you'd stay confused. They didn't plan for your silence to evolve. They never imagined your brokenness could become your blueprint for vengeance. While they perfected their masks, you sharpened your awareness. While they played roles, you studied patterns. They gaslit you into the dark. But in that darkness, you developed night vision. Now look at them. Uncomfortable in their own lies. Jittery in rooms they once commanded. Their performance is cracking under the weight of exposure. Panic is a beautiful perfume on hypocrites. Intoxicating, revealing, and impossible to ignore. They're scrambling to rewrite history, delete screenshots, and twist timelines. I didn't say that. You misunderstood. That's not what I meant. But it's too late. The curtain's down, the lights are up, and the audience isn't blind anymore. You became the mirror, and their reflection is grotesque. They can't cope with it. They wanted to be puppeteers, not exhibits. But now their threads are tangled, their lies are echoing, and that once smooth control is slipping through their fingers like ash. They used you like a chalkboard, erasing parts of you every time you showed your real self. But what happens when the chalkboard writes back? When every erased word turns into a weapon? You learned the art of quiet observation. You stopped explaining yourself and started documenting. Your silence became strategic, your distance surgical. And every fake apology, every twisted half-truth, every smug manipulation, you stored it like ammunition. You turned gaslighting into gasoline. And now, the fire is spreading. Funny how the ones who lit the match are screaming, arson. They underestimated your rage because it didn't look loud. It looked focused. They underestimated your memory because it didn't come with shouting. It came with records, patterns, facts. You didn't strike back immediately, and they mistook that for weakness. No, you were just letting them build their kingdom of lies taller, higher, more dramatic. So when it fell, it would echo. And oh, how it echoes now. Every victim act they try to play only exposes them more. Because once you see the trick, the magician looks like a fool. And now everyone sees. Not just you. See, Gaslighting only works when the victim still believes the illusion is worth preserving. But you stopped playing that game. You let their version of you die. You stopped defending yourself in rooms where truth was never welcome. You walked away without a monologue, without a warning, without a tear. And in that silence, they began to unravel. Because people like them need control. They need reaction. Your silence? It was the scream they couldn't handle. The chaos they didn't prepare for. The power they couldn't mimic. You went quiet, and suddenly, their spotlight turned into an interrogation lamp. They're sweating now, and it's beautiful. The ones who tried to break your perception are now begging to control the narrative again. They want to be seen as misunderstood, misrepresented, misjudged. But the receipts are everywhere. The contradiction is loud. The timeline is stained. And the truth you carry, it doesn't need defense, it simply exists. Their panic is the confession. Their sudden kindness, that's fear. Their nervous laughter, that's guilt. Their forced neutrality, that's collapse. The empire of illusions they built is now a sandbox of regret. And they're digging frantically, trying to bury their own exposure. But some things refuse to stay buried. Like you. Like truth. Like karma with a timer. You didn't retaliate. You evolved. You didn't clap back. You ascended. And now, from this new altitude, you watch the chaos below with the same cold clarity they once used against you. But unlike them, you don't need to fabricate anything. You are the evidence. You are the rebuke. Every breath you take in peace is a punishment to those who sold you confusion. And they feel it. Oh, they feel it. Every time someone looks at them sideways. Every time a question is asked that they can't answer. Every time they remember how they used to mock you, only to realize you were never broken. You were just becoming bulletproof. They whispered to others about your instability. They smirked while assassinating your character in rooms you weren't invited to. But now they're the unstable ones. They flinch at shadows. They reread their own texts with anxiety. They hear your name and feel exposed, not because you're loud, but because you're aware. And nothing terrifies a manipulator more than a victim who doesn't need to scream to be believed. You made them feel small without raising your voice. You made them unravel without lifting a hand. Because the most violent revenge is showing them who you became when their mask slipped. They thought the fire would consume you, but you became the flame. And now their lies, their paper, their fuel, their confessions in disguise. Watch them try to pivot, try to explain, try to build a new version of events where they're still the hero. But that's the tragedy, isn't it? Gaslighters forget they're not architects, they're illusionists. And illusions don't survive exposure. They flicker, they fade, they burn, just like they tried to burn you. But you turned ashes into armor. And now as they panic behind forced smiles and overly rehearsed denials, you remain still. A storm with a heartbeat, a mirror with memory, a quiet reckoning that speaks volumes. This isn't revenge, this is correction. The scales tipping back to balance, the truth dragging them into daylight while they scream for shadows. And the best part? You're not even trying. You're just existing. And even your existence is dismantling their kingdom of pretense. Because the show isn't over. Oh no, the curtain may have fallen, but the aftermath, that's where the real chaos begins. And the best part? You're not even trying. You're just existing. And even your existence is dismantling their kingdom of pretense. Because the show isn't over. Oh no. The curtain may have fallen, but the aftermath? That's where the real chaos begins. It's in the aftermath where the cracks start to show, where the seams tear apart, where they can't hide behind the facade anymore. They thought the storm was over. They thought they'd weathered the worst. But all they've done is built a house of cards on a foundation of lies. And as the wind picks up, one by one, they'll watch it collapse. Slowly at first, a whisper of doubt here, a flicker of truth there. But soon enough, those cards will fall. And then the panic? Oh, the panic will be deafening. You see, they've always relied on one thing, their ability to control the narrative. They've mastered the art of storytelling, spinning webs of deceit with such elegance that even the most discerning eyes couldn't see the manipulation. But what happens when the story they've carefully crafted starts to unravel? What happens when their lies are exposed for what they are? Fragile, hollow, decaying. The game changes. They're not the masters of the narrative anymore. You are. And now, in this new chapter, they're scrambling to rewrite their own history, trying to manipulate you into becoming the villain of the piece. But the beauty of truth is that it doesn't need a script. It doesn't need a stage. It simply exists, raw, undeniable, unyielding. And it's shining through every crack in their carefully constructed world. They thought they could bury you beneath their stories, suffocate you with their lies. But they forgot one critical thing. Truth doesn't fade. It only grows louder, clearer, more insistent. And now they're choking on it. They thought they'd poisoned the well, and now they're drinking from it, desperate, unable to stop themselves. Every time they try to explain away their actions, every time they try to convince others of their innocence, the cracks deepen. The lies grow more obvious. The silence between their words becomes deafening. And that's the part they didn't prepare for, the silence. They thought silence was your weakness, didn't they? That by quieting you, by gaslighting you into submission, they'd win. But silence isn't weakness, is it? No. Silence is strategy. Silence is power. Silence is when you stop playing by their rules and start observing their every move. And in that silence, you've collected everything. Every twisted comment, every false accusation, every cruel manipulation. You've built an arsenal, piece by piece, and you didn't have to raise your voice to do it. All you had to do was wait. Wait for them to dig their own graves. Wait for them to expose themselves. And they did. They did it without even realizing it. They thought the storm had passed, but they failed to understand the true nature of the chaos they unleashed. It wasn't just about you. It was never just about you. It was about them. It was about their hubris, their arrogance, their assumption that they could control everything and everyone around them. And now that arrogance is biting them in the ass. Now they're stuck, spinning in circles, trying to control the uncontrollable, trying to stop the inevitable fallout from their own actions. It's almost poetic, isn't it? How the very thing they used to break you, their manipulation, their lies, their gaslighting, has now become their undoing. The pieces are falling into place, one by one, like a perfectly executed game of chess. They thought they were the ones in control, pulling the strings, playing everyone like puppets. But now they're the ones tangled in their own web, trapped by the very chaos they thought they could control. And the worst part? They know it. They can feel it. They're being watched. Every move they make, every word they say, every attempt to smooth things over, just digs them deeper into the hole they've created. They're the ones panicking now, the ones scrambling to cover their tracks, to rewrite their story. But it's too late. The truth is already out there. The damage is done. You, on the other hand, are watching from a distance, detached, calm. You've been here before. You've seen this play out. You know how it ends. They'll try to salvage their reputation, try to repair the damage, but nothing can fix what's been broken. The trust they once had, the image they once projected, it's all shattered. The mask has cracked, and now they have to live with the consequences. They'll never be able to unsee what they've done. They'll never be able to forget how you saw through them, how you exposed them for who they truly are. They thought you'd be the one to break, but you didn't. You didn't crack under the pressure. Instead, you stood tall. You adapted, you learned, and you waited. And now, you're watching them unravel in real time. It's almost beautiful how quickly everything falls apart when the truth gets in the way. They didn't just gaslight you. They gaslit themselves into thinking they could get away with it. They believed their own lies. They thought they could outrun the consequences. But now, as they scramble to save face, they're realizing that the truth doesn't care about their intentions. It doesn't care about their excuses. It just is. And now, as they fumble and fail, it's your turn to rise. You didn't need to play the game. You didn't need to stoop to their level. All you had to do was be patient, be calm, be observant. And now, with the weight of their lies crashing down around them, they're starting to see what happens when you expose a narcissist to the light. They panic. They flail. They try to make the world believe their version of events, but it's too late. Their version is fading. Their narrative is crumbling. And your silence, your quiet strength, your unwavering existence, it's the final nail in their coffin. They thought they had the upper hand. They thought they could control everything. But now, they're the ones who are out of control. And it's beautiful, isn't it? How the tables turn. How the ones who played God with your life are now begging for mercy. You're not even looking for retribution. You're not chasing after vengeance. You don't need to. The world is doing it for you. The consequences are taking shape all around them. They're trapped by their own actions, unable to escape, unable to hide. They are their own downfall. They built the foundation of lies, and now it's crumbling beneath their feet. And you? You're watching, calm, detached, objective. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You've already won. Not by fighting, not by arguing, but by simply being, simply existing, simply watching the chaos unfold. And as it burns around them, all you have to do is wait. Because in the end, the truth always wins. And they'll be the ones left to deal with the wreckage of their own making. And you? You're watching, calm, detached, objective. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You've already won. Not by fighting, not by arguing, but by simply being, simply existing, simply watching the chaos unfold. And as it burns around them, all you have to do is wait. Because in the end, the truth always wins. And they'll be the ones left to deal with the wreckage of their own making. This is the final act, the crescendo of their destruction. It's happening now, in real time, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. They're scrambling, desperate, watching as the walls close in on them, one truth at a time. But what they don't understand, what they'll never understand, is that their desperation makes it worse. It makes them look weaker. It makes them look more guilty. They thought they had it all figured out, didn't they? They thought they could control the narrative. But the narrative is no longer theirs. It's yours. And what do you do when the tables turn, when the power shifts? You don't fight. You don't need to. You simply watch the inevitable unfold, knowing that every moment of their panic brings them one step closer to their undoing. Their lies, too big to sustain. Their manipulations, too obvious to ignore. And all the while, you remain still, silent, detached. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. You don't need to defend your actions. Your actions are already justified by the truth. And truth, like fire, needs no help to burn. It consumes everything in its path, and it's scorching their world to the ground. The more they try to hide it, the more they try to cover their tracks, the more exposed they become. Every word they speak is another lie that contradicts their last. Every action they take is another crack in their armor. They thought they could outrun this. They thought they could suppress the chaos. But chaos isn't something you suppress. It's something you live with. It's something that grows until it consumes you entirely. And that's exactly what's happening now. They're suffocating under their own weight, under the pressure of the truth. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. You've become the silent force they can't control, the calm in the storm that they can't drown out. Every time they try to quiet you, to shut you down, you only get louder in the silence. You're not screaming. You don't need to. The world is hearing your silence, and it speaks volumes. The more they thrash around, the more they expose themselves. Every desperate attempt to regain control only digs them deeper. And when the truth hits, when it finally becomes undeniable, they'll be the ones left with no ground to stand on, no way to justify their actions. They'll try, of course. They'll try to twist the story, to turn the narrative in their favor. But it will be too late. Everyone around them has already seen through the act. Everyone knows who they really are. The mask has slipped, and now they're naked in the light of truth, exposed and vulnerable in ways they never imagined. They thought they could gaslight you into submission. They thought they could manipulate you into doubting yourself, into questioning your own worth. But look at them now. Where are they? They're scrambling for a lifeline, but they can't find one. Their lies are too heavy to keep afloat. Their manipulation is too shallow to survive the weight of what's been exposed. And now, they're just trying to hold on to anything they can. But the more they try, the more they unravel. It's like watching a house of cards collapse, each movement they make pushing them closer to the edge. They're sinking, and they know it. But here's the kicker. They're not even aware of the full extent of the damage they've caused. They're too caught up in their own panic to see it. They think if they can just spin one more lie, if they can just convince one more person, maybe they can get out of this. But they can't. They won't. The damage is already done. The truth has taken root. It's like a seed planted in the ground. And now, It's growing, spreading, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. The world is watching, and soon enough, they'll be exposed for the frauds they are. They thought you were the victim. They thought you were the one on the back foot. But it turns out, you were never the victim. You were the predator. Quiet, patient, watching, waiting. And now, you've come to claim your reward. You're not looking for revenge. No, that would be too easy. You're here for something much more satisfying. You're here for the truth. You're here for justice. And the beauty of it is, you don't need to fight for it. You don't need to do anything at all. The world will do it for you. They'll do the work for you. The truth has a way of catching up to those who try to bury it. And when it does, it doesn't care about their excuses. It doesn't care about their pleas. It doesn't care about their pain. All it cares about is being seen. All it cares about is being acknowledged. And when the truth is finally seen for what it is, there will be no escaping it. This isn't about you anymore. This isn't even about them. This is about the reckoning. This is about what happens when you try to play God with other people's lives. This is about the consequences of gaslighting, the consequences of lying, the consequences of manipulating people into submission. They thought they could control you. They thought they could break you. But instead, they broke themselves. And now, as they spiral deeper into their own mess, they'll have no one to blame but themselves. But you stand unshaken. You stand with your head held high, knowing that you didn't need to fight. You didn't need to prove a thing. The truth has already done that for you. And while they burn, you rise. You rise above it all, not with anger, not with hate, but with a quiet, calm certainty. You don't need to shout. You don't need to get even. All you need to do is exist. And in doing so, you've won. As they fade into the background, as their world crumbles, you'll remain. A silent witness to their downfall. A reminder that no one can outrun the truth. They can try, but they will fail. And when the dust settles, it will be you, standing tall amidst the wreckage, untouched, unmoved, victorious. Because in the end, the truth always wins. And they were never strong enough to carry it.